Hi, I'm Eugene Kim, and I'm the AAS recorder and one of the co-chairs of the 2018 Academic Surgical Congress program. And in the next couple of weeks, we're expecting a lot of abstract submissions, and I thought I'd take this opportunity to provide some tips for writing an abstract, and hopefully this will improve your chances of getting one of those abstracts accepted. So when we talk about writing an abstract, we first want to address the structure or your foundation. And for any abstract that you write, this should always be the same. There should be a background that talks about what your problem is, what you're going to study, and then your methods, the techniques, and how you go about studying your problem. You briefly want to then talk about your results and the significance of those results. And then finally, in conclusions, you want to discuss your findings and then circle back to your hypothesis to show that or not show what your results indicate. So in the background, first of all, you want to state what the problem is. Why is it a problem? Why is it a problem to the general public? And then you want to tell your audience how your work addresses that problem. And then you want to have a hypothesis. It really is critical to have a hypothesis, and you should strive to avoid sentences like "we sought to" or "we aim to." Put yourself out there and say, hey, this is what we think is going to happen, and then go about showing it. You want to avoid abbreviations and acronyms or unfamiliar terminology. You have to assume that your audience or your viewer is not familiar with the work that you have gone about doing, and that they may not be familiar with all the terminology that you are. So make sure you define these things before you use them. In the methods, you want to make sure that you have clear and sufficient detail, but at the same time, you don't want to get bogged down with the minutiae of protocols and all the small little things with the in vitro assays. If you study the patients, or if you used animals for your studies, make sure that you mention what your N is or what your number is, so that your reviewer can have an idea of the scope of your project. You want to mention all statistical methods and techniques that you used, so that the reviewer can appreciate the significance of what you've done. As far as the results, clearly and briefly state what your results are. And you want to highlight the major results. And some of your studies will have many, many results. And clearly some of those results are going to be more important than others. And if you find yourself with just too much to present, and then just make sure you focus on the best results, the most important results, and you may leave some of your lesser results out. And again, make sure you state your p-values, because you want your reviewer to appreciate the significance of your work. At the end, you want to be brief and summarize your conclusions and your results. And then finally, you want to circle back to your hypothesis. And in doing so, you've shown, where you've started and what you thought was going to happen, and then what did happen at the very end. So for general rules for success, make sure that you write every abstract as if it were for a lay audience. Again, your reviewer will unlikely have the experience that you or your PI does, and so you want to make things very clear. And in that vein, if you find yourself with too much data to write in the abstract, you should really consider leaving some of it out. It's better to present less data clearly than too much data cluttered and unclearly. And make sure you follow the abstract submission rules. Be very mindful of the character count and your tables and how many rows you're allowed within your tables. In general, you are allowed to insert a figure or a table, and sometimes tables will decrease the number of characters, so be mindful of these rules as you write your abstract. And it's usually a good idea to have someone who's not in your field to read your abstract, because if you can make it clear enough for them to understand, then most likely it's going to be clear enough for a reviewer to understand. I want to thank you for taking the time for watching and listening to this video on writing tips for abstract. We look forward to your submissions to the 2018 Academic Surgical Congress, and we look forward to seeing you in Jacksonville. Thank you.
Yo, VIP.